Accessing library computer data.
Out there are no saints. Just people.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Continuing our run through Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Right now we are up to the episode called Looking for Parmok in All the Wrong Places. It is the third episode of the 5th season, aired on October 14th, 1996. Written by Ronald D. Moore, directed by Andrew Robinson, also known as Garrick. In this episode, Worf helps Quark woo Grilka, his Klingon ex-wife. It's a callback to Season 3's third episode, House of Quark. But Clay did not see that episode. But Clay, how are you?
I'm good. Is this the fuckiest episode of Star Trek where they're not mind controlled?
Probably, right? Well,
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably a TOS episode that is a little bit sexier, I think.
Yeah.
But it's definitely...
Everybody's... You'd think there's something in the air on that station, because usually when you have this many people getting busy, there's some sort of mind control or, crazy gas leak
alien
or something.
thing. Yep. No, this is just...
Alien gas leak.
Everyone, this there's a lot of bad sex puns I think we can make going forward here. I'm going to choose to refrain from all of them. We're going to go forward like adults. We're going to take a break and talk about, break and play an audio clip. Then we're going to come back and talk about looking for Parmok in all the wrong places.
Challenging Thopok to a fight is a waste of time. Grilka cannot mate with you, now or ever. Your house is dishonored, your name is a curse.
I meant no disrespect.
You showed none. I'm sure your motives were honorable. Do not let it trouble you too much. In truth, I doubt it would have been a good match.
Why?
Have you ever pursued a Klingon woman?
No.
Well, there's no shame in that. I mean, you were raised by humans. You wear their uniform. You accept their values. How could you know anything about our women?
You'd be surprised what I know.
Perhaps, but we will not find out here.
All right, so, minor factoid. It's the third longest title in Star Trek history. Third only to For the World is Hollow and I've Reached the Sky, which is in the TOS, and then there is The Butcher's Knife Cares Not for the Lamb's Cry, which is a Discovery Season 1 episode. Third longest title. It's the most lighthearted, fun comedy, I guess, Clay. What struck me about watching this one was it kind of comes out of nowhere in how weird the tone is, and that's not to say it's bad. It's not to say it's a terrific comedy, I don't think, but it's certainly not a bad comedy. It is based on Cyrano de Bergerac, basically, which is the famous play where the ugly guy is trying to woo the attractive woman, so he has the stud go after her, and he whispers all the things for the guy to say to her. Mm-hmm. It's based on that, and then I don't know.
I like that you went for the more literary reference instead of saying it's based on the plot that every single sitcom ever has used at least once.
Yep. That's also true. It's a very sitcom-y thing. Which plot line do you think that is? This or the Cyrano de Bergerac plot line? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Where someone stands in for a suitor.
Yeah, there's always there's the quote unquote less attractive person has the hots for the hot guy, but then the hot guy ends up liking their friend. And so then they got to tell their friend what to say, and, they go into dinner while they're wearing, an electric radio piece, and then the piece starts shorting out. And I'm just talking about Saving Silverman, which is... I loved that movie at the time, but I don't know if it holds up so much now. But
excuse me. The only thing that... only bit of that I think that holds up for me is at the very end there with the... that actor who is the I will skull fuck you guy in
oh yes, yeah, Arlie Ermy.
Yeah, he jumps out of the car, does like a barrel roll, and for some reason that really makes me laugh. That's like the funniest part of that whole movie, I think. But yeah, looking for Parmok in all the wrong places. A very strange, silly kind of episode. Maybe not inappropriate.
The whole thing feels like Ron Moore had a sitcom script that he just never used, or like he just watched an episode of Living Single or something.
Yes.
And then he was just like, well, yeah, let's
Hot
just do
90s
that.
sitcom. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, the O'Brien thing
like
even
Friends
starts
or
to
something.
feel sitcom-y here, but I want to save the O'Brien stuff for the last, actually, because I think I might have the most to say, excuse me, about that one. Excuse me, everyone. I'm still dying over here, but while I recover, why don't you say what you thought about Parmok?
I thought it was fun. Thought it was fairly light. It wasn't. There wasn't anything egregiously bad about it, except for maybe how oblivious to everything Keiko is.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's kind of that character being that oblivious is always part of those sorts of like line crossing stories. Anyway. Yeah, I thought I liked they you know what I really appreciated about this, it's like they at least took were aware enough that they were doing an episode like this, and so they involved everybody who has like a weird emotional relationship thing with somebody else. They involved everybody.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
there's even a scene, we can talk about it later, but there's the main stuff with Worf and
Quark and Brilka.
and Dax, and yes, the Klingon woman whose name I don't know. And then obviously there's the O'Brien and Kira stuff, but there's also a scene of Kira and Odo.
Yep.
Which is nice. And there's even a little bit of Cisco in there too, and he's got a fucked up, emotional life too. So they took everybody that's having those. I mean, maybe everybody just has those problems. And
there's the meta Bashir and or Siddig and Visitor having a relationship
Right.
where Siddig is talking to O'Brien about it, and it's kind of a little bit of a meta commentary.
And even inside the show, at the end, Bashir is like, I don't want to. I'm the only person here who's not getting laid, so I don't want to hear about it.
He
He doesn't say that explicitly, but that's kind of like how I was taking it. It's like they're specifically doing this to the character who's
the sexy
constantly,
one.
looking for a chick.
He's constantly looking for Parmok. Yeah, I actually liked his reaction at the end. I thought it was maybe the best
Yeah, it was
joke
good.
out of the whole thing. Yeah, they do pair up a lot of people. There's a lot of layers going on, and it's a lot of sort of mirroring in the plot lines and everything. It's extremely light because while it's a callback to the House of Quark episode, which Dax explains in a exposition dump in one of her scenes with Worf, it reminded me. And I guess I'll have to finish it. It reminded me of an Arrested Development episode in that when it was over, I could not tell you what the plot was that happened.
Mm-hmm.
It's really just a bunch of scenes that kind of come together, and you're like, I don't know why anything was happening that people were doing. There was a logic for it, but it's really not important. And that felt like this. It felt like it was such a detached or different approach than the way that the show has been doing usually up to this point. They really went for the comedy approach of just the scenes have to work with everybody. And I think that they do. I really liked Armin Shimmerman as Quark in this episode. I think he's pretty good.
He is a better fighter than Michael Dorn is. Every time they cut back to Dorn doing the Klingon fighting moves, he just looks so stiff. And then Armin Shimmerman looks like fucking Keanu Reeves in The Matrix compared to Worf.
Yeah, he apparently took the week prior and spent it with like stunt fighting trainers or something so that he would be able to pull it off.
It shows. Yeah, he did a good job.
Comes across.
I will say, this is one episode where I'm not upset that they didn't redo them in HD because, man, those batliths look cheap.
Yep, look like cardboard sort of bumping into each other.
Yeah.
That's not very good. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know. There's not a lot to really say about this episode.
It all comes back to racism against Ferengis, man. I've been saying that since day one.
Yeah.
Everybody's cool with everybody except for the Ferengi. Everyone is united in their racism towards Ferengi.
And I mean I wouldn't even really say it's a Quark episode. I don't know whose episode it is. It's kind of everybody's. Everybody has a little bit of something going on, or at least the main four do.
At first I thought it was going to be like a straight Worf episode. But But yeah, it's pretty much very much an ensemble piece where everybody's got something to do and everybody is has motivations that are pretty clear and involved in the plot. And yeah, it's a pretty good episode as far as that goes.
And it's the as you say, it's the sexiest episode of Star Trek. Maybe it does the Seinfeldy thing where they only mention sex once, even though everything in this is about sex on some level. Have they ever mentioned sex specifically ever on Star Trek? It's usually some sort of euphemism. I don't think they've ever actually said the word. Probably not. Anyway. No, I mean Dax says it here, but I can't think of anything previous to that where they've outright said like we're having sex or something.
Attention! This is your captain speaking. We are having sex.
Red alert! Red alert! No, I can't. There must be.
I'm bringing 10 forward to the warp core, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's and I mean as a sort of sex farce, I guess it's pretty much fine. It's definitely one of those episodes that like if this was a 10 or 13 episode season, you would cut this one out. I think is the kind of the lay of the land for it. But I think the most important aspect of it is it's the start of the Dax and Worf relationship.
You say you'd cut it, but I think if I was in the room, I would probably go to bat for this episode because I don't think. It's definitely very fluffy, but I feel like it's everybody in it is good enough, and the character work is really good. I think every season, even the short ones, you need to have some sort of like tension release, and I think this would be a pretty good one to keep in there.
Yeah. Do I disagree with that? I guess I mean, excuse me. Maybe this is a wrong decision to record, but I think that we can't avoid it now. I think the weakest link is really the O'Brien's stuff, which we can just talk about that now. I find that actually more interesting than anything else going on because I find the O'Brien storyline to be on the Memory Alpha. Ron Moore said he was prouder of the O'Brien storyline than he was of the main storyline in this one. And that seems insane to me because the O'Brien storyline seems to me to be ignoring the fact that this is a comedy. It really seems to continue this trend of like, are the O'Briens really happy with each? Like, what is good about the O'Brien relationship? And do the writers think that Keiko is actually a person or a character on the show? Like, does she exist in the sense that she means anything to anything, or are they just going to? And you have to hedge it with it's a comedy, so you kind of need her ignorance. But I don't know. You tell me what you thought about that, and it'll like hone my criticism a bit. I think I can choose somewhere to start.
Well, it takes the O'Brien plot line and it butts it head first into the weird thing that they do, where like everybody seems to want to bang Kira for some reason. Mm-hmm. And I find that it seems incredibly random. This plot seems incredibly random. I mean, I understand the thinking behind it, where it's like, well, they're living together, he's having a baby, they're doing a lot of physical contact and that kind of thing. People grow to have a crush on each other or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It just felt really like I don't think it's a matter of the O'Briens being happy, because they're fine in this episode. Like all the arguing happens between O'Brien and Kira. There's no animosity between O'Brien and Keiko, but the running theme seems to be that Keiko kind of wants to be alone. She seems to be thrilled that she is not having this baby. And she also is like desperate to get Miles out the door. Does not care that he's been like sensually rubbing this woman while she's like in the other room reading a book.
He's rubbing her upper thigh. Like he's giving her a massage to her upper thigh. It doesn't make any sense as to why he would do that. It's such a, to me, it just feels like
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, it feels like excuse me, an escalation of. It feels like an escalation of the conflict by necessity, almost. Like if this was a script where you're saying like the alien mind controlling powers had taken over the crew, that storyline makes more sense to me here. Like the way that they've exploded it into such a problem all of a sudden feels very off, because if you were to write up a like listing of the pairs of characters on the show and like how good of a relationship or friendship they have, I think Kira and O'Brien would be at the bottom. I don't know if they've said anything to each other prior to this episode. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I can't think of anything that they ever have said to each other. So for them to all of a sudden develop into this flowering relationship where O'Brien never once, I don't think, brings up the fact that he's married to Keiko during this. Like he always has some weird reason that he shouldn't be doing it. And his marriage is not a problem. And, you know, the writers don't seem to think of Keiko as a person because she, ignores all this. And then when Odo is confronting Kira, he doesn't say he's a married man to her. Like there's no reflection about the O'Brien being taken. It's more that Odo thinks this is a very funny thing that's happened. It's very strange.
Yeah, and also, as I was saying about her, Keiko seeming to just want to be by herself, at the end, she offers up the lamest fucking excuse for not going on that trip with Kira when she's like, I can't go. I have a seminar I have to go to tomorrow. Miles, you should go. You know, the chief engineer officer or whatever on Deep Space Nine. You should go. You should leave the shit. You should leave and go with her. I can't. I have a seminar that I just, I can't miss.
Can't miss it.
Right?
Can't miss it.
I can't do it remotely because we're in the fucking 24th century.
And I mean, it's
or whatever, 25th. I don't know what century it is.
24th. And I think that, like the scenes themselves. So my problem here is that I recognize this as a comedy. And I recognize that they're sort of taking liberties with it. However, it still feels very weird to me. It's not like it's not something that feels like it organically came about. And it feels very much like a failed attempt at serialization of the show. Mm-hmm. Like this solution does not seem to be an appropriate thing to do. And the problem with the O'Brien stuff is because just looking at this as like a family man or whatever, it's more whatever may come of the other plot lines, it's not a big deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like the Worf plot line and the Quark plot line, whatever happens with this plot line has a tremendous effect on a lot of characters. So it feels weird to sort of joke around and be silly about the fact that these two are considering hooking up and that they both want it. It's not like it's a weird O'Brien thing where he's lusting after Kira, who is completely unaware of what's going on, which would be a repeat of the Odo thing, I guess. But.
Yeah, that's at least kind of nice because it turns her into someone who actually has, is more than just an object to be lusted after,
It's true,
it seems to be and all of the relationships she has, even Chakar to an extent, it's been like, she's the one, she's kind of being lusted after by a guy.
She can be won over by the most blandest aggressively person that she can run into. Yeah, she doesn't really go out of her way to make her own decisions.
Yeah. But yeah, it's nice that she's involved, but yeah, it feels so completely random. And the final scene with them on the Defiant feels really strange to me. I don't know. It's just it's like even Miles, even O'Brien doesn't really talk about Keiko in that. I guess he kind of does. But
he hardly ever brings up Keiko by name. He never mentions Keiko.
At least in that scene, he's like, "No, I can't do this. I need to get out of here." Like at least you can infer that he can't do it because he's married and he loves his wife, even if he doesn't actually say that.
Right? Yeah.
But like even then, at the end, he's just like, but what if could we? And she's like, let's get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, he's leaning in for a kiss basically at the end, and she's like, you should leave. So it doesn't come back. I didn't mean to stomp on your point, but that's kind of what I mean. Yeah. Yeah,
and I mean, I guess in that moment she kind of does revert to that lust object thing because she's over it, or at least she is, being like, no, this is not going to happen. And then he's like, but maybe.
Yeah.
And this is another episode, much like I can't remember if it was the last one or the one before, where I feel like this was the launching point for 1,000 fanfics. I think.
Yes. Yep.
Just you never know. Maybe Miles goes back and like tells Keiko about it, and she's totally cool with it. And she's like, "Yeah, I mean, what the hell?"
Just based on the night.
I'm a cool modern woman.
The Nightwear alone, the pink night slip that Major Kira is wearing in front of Chief Miles O'Brien. Very inappropriate. But like he's
It's his fucking wife.
why is he?
Don't stop on my account. What's wrong? Touch her higher on the leg, Miles.
Yeah, he says she says really give it to her, Miles, and he's like, all right, I'm gonna really amp things up here. It's like, what the hell is going? Amy was watching this with me, and she was her jaw was on the floor through these entire scenes. It was just like, what is going on with this family? I can't really explain it either. But I think that
that's why you didn't have any of your friends come over when she was pregnant, because you didn't want anything weird going on. You know,
everyone wants to massage a pregnant woman. That's exactly what all men want to do.
I mean, once the opportunity to just massage those pregnant feet pop up, it's just like cartoon wolf eyes.
The other thing, excuse me, about it is that I know that they had to mirror the love story, or they were trying to. I think it was a big mistake. I don't think this feels correct, and I thought that it was more an episode for the O'Briens to be built around the fact that O'Brien is now living with a superior officer that he might be catching in sort of like personal moments. You know, you don't really have to play up the romance thing, but just the fact that he catches her, like he has to help her, with the difficulties that pregnant women would, getting in and out of the tub or things that she needs help with. Like there's comedy in that stuff. So it's just weird to me that they basically just cut Keiko out of the poor Keiko. They cut Keiko out and just stick them together, and it doesn't end up amounting to anything.
What? Don't you think it would be almost more appropriate if nothing was going on, but Keiko thought there was?
Yes, that would be a better way to go about it too, yeah.
Yeah, because the stuff that he's doing, I mean, I guess it is fairly intimate, but he's going about it as like an engineer. You know, the stuff he's doing is very like procedural and very technical.
He's thinking of Muniz the whole time.
Yeah, like he's not putting on, he's not lighting candles and putting on, whatever the Bajoran equivalent of Belle Biv DeVoe is or something like that on the radio while he like lovingly caresses her calves. He's working her over like a trainer. He's getting in there and he's like elbowing out those Charlie horses and shit. Yeah, it's not a very sexy massage he's giving.
No.
So I think it would be more appropriate to have Keiko, be the one who's a little, because I mean, honestly, it's, I guess it depends on how you want to look at it, but if you want to go the more,
even more than Keiko, I think you could, Bashir is surprisingly okay with everything going on too. Like if during that scene Bashir was just like, wait, you saw her in the tub? I don't know if that's true to character. Like the way they play it feels like more like those two would actually play it. But I feel you could really stretch it beyond Keiko into everyone kind of wondering what's going on between the two of them or something.
Well, but at least with Keiko, you have this fairly plausible reaction that you could have her have of, Miles putting the attention onto the person who's now carrying the baby.
Right.
And, because I assume there is some sort of feeling of loss she's going to have about that. And not that I would think that she would feel worthless or anything like that. But, you get in that situation where the person with the most important job gets shifted to somebody else when it's something as personal as having a child. You could imagine there'd be some emotional, I don't want to say trauma, but issues going on.
Yeah,
that might be more reasonable than falling in love with the guy changing the oil.
Yeah, right. Keiko should be conflicted, and if they were interested in writing her as a character, I think you could really write it around her being conflicted about the, as you say, losing the baby to Kira, and then also wondering where her husband's attentions should be placed at that point, because he should. It's a difficult decision for her because he should be taking care of the baby, but he should also be tending to his wife at the same time, and she should have a little bit of a confliction about that.
They seem to be only playing the baby thing for comedy. Like there hasn't really been that I can think of where they've only kind of touched on it a couple times, but it's always sort of a point of lightness. Yes. They've never really dipped into what this transition means or anything like that. Maybe they did in the first time that after it happened, but even there, not really, I don't think.
They never dipped into why Kira moved in, really. It just kind of happened. Yeah. It's just like, this is the thing now. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's always just like a window dressing for another scene where it's like, oh, we're having a scene with Kira we're talking about serious shit, and then she starts sneezing at the end up because she's pregnant, that kind of thing. They never use it as a serious plot point. At least they haven't so far.
I mean, so, excuse me. And I guess the reason that leads me to the reason why I would cut this episode. My argument would be, I don't know if purely comic episodes, while I like them in a 26 episode season, I think they're okay. Even then, I still feel like they operate by a set of rules that are different from what the universe normally has for the show. Like things feel a little bit off. Like the relationships don't quite line up in what people are doing. And, even little things like, and it's the true comedy setting, like true comedy office workplace. Like no one ever seems to have a job to do. Everyone's just kind of hanging out the whole time.
Yeah.
And that kind of flies in the face with everything else that you see of the show, where in other storylines and other episodes, people are working while they're talking or doing things. And this one, they're kind of hanging out, drinking with each other. And it's at
least on Cheers, Woody Harrelson was constantly drying glasses when he talked.
Right. Exactly. So that would be my argument. Like, I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with this one. It's just an episode that feels very out of left field for me. And I think that you maybe viewed that as more of a positive. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I don't know if I would call it that specifically a positive, but I just, I think it's for what it is. I thought they did it pretty well. It's silly, but I think it works. I think aside from the O'Brien and Kira stuff, the character stuff is fairly consistent. But even there, that story, even though it doesn't really make a lot of sense, it is at least watchable and kind of fun. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'd put this on my top 10, but it was good. I enjoyed it. I also really appreciated that they made absolutely no movement towards explaining what that technology that they're using with Quark at the end is. They did not even say what it was. They don't say how it works. They just use it. And I really appreciated that because, like, that's one of those things where I bet there was some technobabble about it. And I would love to assume that someone in the writer's room is like, honestly, the more we talk about this, the more it's going to be a problem.
Yes. Yeah. It's the same with the, it'd be like the pregnancy storyline when they moved the baby and they had to technobabble it for a couple minutes before they just decided to give up. They didn't do anything with that at all in this one. And I agree with you. Totally unnecessary. Comedy, especially, you don't need it.
I feel like we've had episodes in the past where I've mentioned the fact that they do take a moment to explain the technology, and the fact that they do that just brings to the forefront how ridiculous it is that they have it.
Yep.
And brings up more questions than you need. So I just appreciated that they don't even make an attempt here, and it's totally fine.
Yep. All right. I think we'll call it a day there. We're going to take a break, play an audio clip. We'll come back, read some patron thoughts, give our final thoughts, and then we will call it a day.
That's it. I'm not going. I don't care what Keiko says. I'm not going. You go. I'll wait an hour and then I'll tell her that you left without me. That there was a miscommunication about the departure time.
You think she'll buy it?
She'll probably accuse us of having another fight, of behaving like children, but I can handle that. The important thing is that we don't go anywhere near that place together.
You are absolutely right. In fact, I'm going to go to the Capitol and see Shakar.
That's the best idea you've had all week. Have a good trip.
Thanks.
Would have been nice.
In another life.
Let's not even think about it.
All right, let's not. Miles.
Yes, Nariz.
Get out.
Right.
All right, everybody. So, if you support the show on patreon.com, you can leave your thoughts about upcoming episodes. I'll read them and we'll react to them on the podcast. Stephen Cobb says, looking for Palmark. Wow, watched this one with new eyes, picked up on a lot of stuff. All the people represent different types of relationships. Dax has clearly been friend-zoned by Worf. Quark is the pickup artist. How can I trick this person into having sex with me guy? Worf is doing a good impression of an incel guy, involuntary celibate. O'Brien, Keiko, Kira are doing a fair impression of an open relationship polygamous thing. Gurkha's bodyguard is clearly a racial purist. Stay away from our woman, you've got Klingon fever, boy. I know it all resolves at the end and it's a twist on Cyrano de Bergerac, but still. Bashir's expression at the excuse me. Bashir's expression at the end when he was treating Quark and Grilka was pretty damn funny.
I think that might be a bit too cynical of a reading of what's going on here. Like, I don't know if I would call Worf an incel. And I don't know if I would call Quark a pickup artist type. You know, like, it seems like his interest in her is pretty genuine.
Genuine, yeah. I'd almost argue that's the plot point I made earlier about the, like, I feel that a lot of the motivations outside of Worf's, I'm not really sure what they're doing. Like, Dax doesn't put up a lot of fight about what she kind of does, but not really. Quark's motivation to me is kind of a mystery. I agree with you that he does seem to be after her purely for love, but that still seems like a lacking reason for me. Like, it always feels like something else should be going on.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think it's being a little too harsh, I think.
Sure. Zam Nuclear Wessel says, looking for Parmak, a fun bit of moving along the overplot through comedy, somewhat as in Body Parts. I accept the various romances based on my belief that hooking up is, as Michelle Rodriguez put it in Lost, what people do. There doesn't always have to be a reason. Having them quickly resolve into long-term Dax and Worf or one-night stands, Grilka and Quark, or never were as Karen O'Brien, is certainly better than having characters float around indefinitely in relationship limbo, Lost being an example, but TNG also. Holly McLaughlin says, looking for Parmak, another pure fun episode. Grilka is a wonderful character, and Quark's interest in a woman who can actually stand up to him instead of the usual Ferengi misogyny elevates him as a character. Worf's cluelessness about Jadzid's interest is funny and really well done. Beyond all the wonderful comedy, the best scene is Miles and Kira finding a way to remain honorable and faithful to their partners. Matthew Ross says, Parmak, Cyrano de Bergerac on the station. Suffering a little bit from the Ferengi funnies, the episode was another in the Midsummers category. Where was Loxana? I guess the Klingons have no accountants as there is no honor in taxes. Excuse me. For a group at war with the feds, what Grilka get? A hall pass to come on board? And yes, Worf, your correspondence classes on Klingon and the fact that you were branded a traitor make you not available to Grilka. Duh. Quark's truth to woo Grilka was an interesting distraction and humorous with him wielding the batleth and talking about what Worf is doing via telepresence. The weird dynamic in-house O'Brien was one scene away from being a porn adventure. Hey, Kira, the music is on. Sit right here with us. And finally, Dax gets some Worf love. An amusing yet ultimately light pause in between two weightier stories.
I did like.
Give me a chance to catch up on my breath here as you fill the air.
I did like that Worf basically pulled out his Klingon hipster guidebook and went to do that weird mating ritual thing where he beat up that guy at the bar and then asked for the blood wine and then challenged that guy to a fight or whatever. It seemed very much like he was, finally got to use all of those things he's been reading about for years. Yeah,
he's continuing on his path to be the most Klingon-y Klingon in the entire galaxy. I think he's the one who actually does everything by the rules as opposed to these guys, which is I guess you sort of say about that about Dax kind of exposes him at the end there for what he really wants is not what he's actually been claiming to seek out, but he wants something totally different from the traditional Klingon stuff that he's expected to want.
Yeah, and I thought the hard cut or whatever to Quark in sickbay was pretty great. I really enjoyed that. After he got completely destroyed by her.
I liked his reaction. Whatever he says is great. Like the camera pans over and she's standing next to him and they just start laughing at each other.
Yeah.
Weirdly, I thought. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I did find the end shot where Dax is like, I can tell you one thing. You're not thinking about that Klingon girl anymore. And they're like, ha 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 ha. That was very strange. That was a very strange moment to end on.
Them sort of standing and spooning might have been the sexiest moment in Star Trek history, actually. Like
that's true. Yeah.
That never happens. And that's like a legitimate, true to form thing that people would actually do. And it was very accurately sexual for this show. Yeah. Christian Pouch says, looking for Parmak in all the wrong places. Bashir's reaction at the end is a 5 out of 5 for me. Kyle Barrett, Parmok. I'm not sure why this episode got made, but I'm glad it did. There's little plot to speak of. I thought there would maybe more to Grilka's visit to the station than what she told Quark, but apparently not. It is, however, a pretty good comedy. Ron D. Moore is an underrated comedy writer, and he lovingly pokes fun at the Klingons and the customs he helped create while upholding the race's believability, more so than in House of Quark, which went too far, in my opinion. Overall, the episode made me laugh, so I think it's good. I think. Last comment, Neil Brennan says, looking for Parmok in all the wrong places. Miles O'Brien, fuck machine. Absolutely. It's
Or like Miles O'Brien, cuck machine.
That's...
Because he never really, his wife doesn't want anything to do with him, and his Kier is not into it either.
No, he's probably the least sexy of the characters on the show.
Yeah,
Like he really doesn't have much. That's a personal thing against Cole Meany, but O'Brien is kind of a. I was reading one review that O'Brien is actually the cast member that Kira, based on her previous interests, would be most interested in because he's like the blandest, most reliable one.
That's true.
So she might actually have a thing for him because everyone else is a little bit too exciting for her.
If he runs for some like low-level political office, like state clerk or some shit like that, she'd probably be all over him.
All over him. Thank you, patrons, for writing with the comments. Apologies for my cold, making it sound horrible to get through, but we got through it. Clay, what are you going to give this one on our scale of 1 to 5?
I'll give it a 3. Yeah, it was good. It's not an all-timer, but it was very enjoyable. I think this is an episode that previously could have been terrible, but I thought they pulled it off pretty well.
I'm going to give it a 3 as well. And I think that's pretty much it. It's right square, right in the middle of everything. And it's really just one of those, as you say, could have been much worse earlier. Turned out okay. Everything is happy. You don't really have any problems while you're watching it. And then it just ends and maybe you don't think about it that much anymore. Let's see. That's about it. Guys, thank you very much. Facebook, Twitter, Discord, all those things. You can also go to patreon.com/the Pensky File if you want to support the show there. A couple $2 a month, you get extra stuff. A little bit of a short episode, but I'm battling a cold. It's not an episode that really lends itself to a lot of discussion, I don't think. And then we're going to be back with Nor the Battle to the Strong in a couple days. So, Clay.
What?
What's that?
Nor the Battle to the Strong?
Yeah, that's the title of the episode. Nor the Battle to the Strong.
That's a questionable title.
I believe it's a biblical reference, I think.
Yeah, that's fine. But I don't know. I kind of side-eye these titles where it's like the second half of a saying that like doesn't make any sense in the out of context.
Yes, yeah.
But maybe it makes more sense after I see the episode. I don't know.
We'll have to see. Clay, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Guys, we will see you next time.